Hi guys, it's me, yours truly, Beverly Sherelle Johnson, lifestyle health coach and consultant, registered nurse for over 33 years, known as the Uncommon Flexitarian, and the creator of Eat What. Eat What is my weekly program that gives you resourceful information and education as to the many USDA and FDA food safety and health concerns. Now, I just don't wish to alarm you, but I also wish to give you solutions, concrete solutions to build your immunity, to build your overall health so that you can look good, feel good, and have a more positive outlook on life. Welcome. Welcome to another edition of Eat What. Welcome, everyone, and I thank you for tuning in today on another edition of Eat What. When you are a member of Eat What, you have access to all of the information that we are presenting here. And if you would like an invitation, you can always drop me a direct message at Beverly Sherelle Johnson. Sherelle is spelled Cherelle, or you can email me at betterlivingwithplants@gmail.com. Betterlivingwithplants@gmail.com. As a member, you will receive the benefits, as I said, of watching every program that we've ever done, access to articles, access to information, access to knowledge that will affect your immunity and give you insight about your health. Now, who can join Eat What? Anyone can join Eat What. Whether you're a vegetarian, one of the many forms of vegetarianism, or whether you're a vegan. You don't have to be a vegan. You don't have to even say that I only do keto diet. Everyone can join Eat What because health is beneficial for every human body, and immunity is important for every human body. So everyone is welcome here at Eat What, no matter if you are a vegetarian, a vegan, strictly on keto, whether you're a flexitarian, or if you eat it all. Welcome to Eat What. Now, today's topic is regarding genetically engineered fish. Fishy facts, another fishy facts topic regarding genetically engineered fish. Now, why are we talking about fish this month? Because as the cooler weather approaches, and we are definitely in fall, moving our way on into winter, a lot of people turn to a lighter food fare of fish and protein in that manner. And there's a lot of commotion about fish in this part of the year. Whereas during the summer months and the spring months, you might be eating more outside and maybe not grilling fish or doing anything such as that. On this end, a lot of restaurants are talking about fish. They have very, very much into the fish aquaculture. Therefore, they're advertising fish sales. They have many food fairs that are surrounding fish. And fish is just a lighter form of protein that we all enjoy for those of us who are eating animal protein. So genetically engineered fish is a topic of concern to all of us. And for those who may not have watched our previous programs, let me just give you a brief definition of something being genetically engineered. Now, if it's genetically engineered or anything that has to do with genetic modification, that means that an organism has been introduced into that subject that is not normally in that subject. And genetic modification, it's been around for decades, and the results are supposed to produce something that is a more desirable form of that mammal, of that host, or even that grain that is supposed to benefit humans a lot more. Now, when you're talking about being genetically modified, it does not just go in terms of according to the meat and animal protein and things such as that. It also is talking about grains. That's right. Genetic modification has been going on for decades, and companies such as DuPont, Monsanto, in fact, those are the two largest companies in the U.S. that have been the leader in selling genetically modified seeds. And they've been doing this for decades. And this is according to research in GeneWatch.org. Everything that I'm talking about is readily available, and it's already known material. Now, when an organism is introduced into another grain, another animal, then, like I said, what the desired effect, what the desired intention is to be, is that to have something that will be greater and more desirable for human consumption, for animal consumption. There's always some benefit that is supposed to be as an end result. Now, in terms of Monsanto and DuPont, and there are many other companies, many other companies, such as chemical companies. BASF is another company that is involved. And BASF in terms of things, not so much as food, but yes, they're involved in this type of research as well. These companies worldwide are looking for answers to what people perceive might be a food shortage, and what people might be perceiving as a way to get more food sources out to underdeveloped countries. And when you're talking about underdeveloped countries, when you're speaking of fish is a main animal protein of underdeveloped countries. And of course, developed countries as well. But when you're speaking of those countries that are not as well advanced as such countries as the United States and such, then you're looking at a main source of income and food, and that is basically the fish. So in their research, the intent, and I'm not bashing any company that desires to do this research, but their intent originally is to, as they say, is to make the fish sources more readily available, giving them, making sure that commercial resources are not being overfished, therefore leaving a depletion of resources and a depletion of resources in the natural habitat, while at the same time providing a food source for those who need this type of agriculture. Now, many of the companies that are involved in genetic modification of fish and grains you have to be concerned about grains, because it is the grains that feed the fish, and when you eat the fish, you're consuming what they have eaten. And also there are grains that we have been eating on our table that have been genetically modified as well. So you still have to be concerned about grains. So when it comes to feeding these fish and making them more available to underdeveloped countries, or to those populations that depend heavily upon fish farming, and fish farming is aquaculture, they depend heavily upon that as a source of income. What you are doing is making sure, as these companies state, that you will provide more jobs, more employment, more sources of income through genetic engineering. And how is that so? Well, their argument is that as these resources are more readily available, meaning that the fish sources, the fish are able to populate at a faster rate than what they would do naturally in the wild. As these fish sources, these sources of income become more popular in that area, then you would have more farms, and then you would have more sources of income. You would have more marketing going across the world, and having people to be able to be independent on their own, financially, able to support their lives and the lives of their family members. Like I said, that is the argument basically, and I know I'm glossing over quite a bit, but that is the argument basically of these large companies that are involved in genetic modification. Now, when it comes to the United States, yes, we, being the DuPont and Monsanto and other companies, that DuPont and Monsanto are the largest in the U.S. who are the leaders in doing this research in terms of seeds and grains and things such as that. When it comes to the United States, we have very many concerns, and you may be aware of some of these concerns when it comes to genetically modified anything, grains, food, fish, anything. First of all, the FDA does not require that labeling go forth when it comes to genetically modified foods. And since it's not a requirement, there's a lot of questions that come up. What am I eating, and what are the possible side effects, and how is this going to benefit me, or will it harm me? And I'm here to give a little bit of insight regarding that today. Now, like I said, everything that I'm citing is not my opinion. Everything that I am citing is from research that has been done, articles that have been done that are readily available and sourced. If you would like to know the sources, of course, I will name some sources here, but if you would like to know the sources of the information where I'm getting my research, I am more than happy to share that with you. All righty. Now, according to Hannah Steiner, in a February 16, 2019 article, she says that these companies are well known, the companies that are involved in genetic engineering, they're well known that they dominate, they're well known in doing this because they know that they dominate the agricultural market. Now, when it comes to the agricultural market, like I said, agricultural markets include the grains, the seeds, everything that has to do with feeding us as well as other animals. And when they're speaking of genetically enhancing these seeds or these grains, they're looking to have a more developed grain, a grain that grows faster in half the time than it would naturally. And well, we would hope it would be free of these things that would harm us, but that's not always the truth. And she and other sources have cited that is some of the major concerns when it comes to genetic modification. All righty. Now, when it comes to fish, there are at least 35 species, at least 35 species of fish that are being genetically modified today. At least 35. And it includes, I bet, some of your favorites. It includes the trout. It includes the catfish. It does include tilapia, as we talked about in previous programs. It also includes the striped bass. Yes, and many, many species of salmon. And that includes the Alaskan salmon and coho salmon. Many, many species, 35 species have been already genetically modified. And according to Associated Press, now everyone knows Associated Press is a leader in fact finding and making sure that they get the facts out there to people. All right, there is a journalist by the name of Mr. Smith, Casey Smith, who brought out a report in May 27th, in May, stating that the salmon has now been approved by the FDA, and this is the genetically modified salmon, has been approved by the FDA here in the United States to be fit for human consumption. Now, you would not necessarily know that the particular salmon on your restaurant plate, you would not necessarily know that this is a genetically modified salmon or not. because, as I said earlier, the FDA does not require any labeling to go along with that. All right. And according to Casey Smith, he was speaking with Sylvia Wolf, who is the CEO of Aqua Bounty Technologies, that several tons of genetically engineered salmon will head to restaurants. This is according again to Casey Smith, who is with the Associated Press. All right. All righty. And according to the CEO of Aqua Bounty Technologies, a person with whom he was receiving information, several tons of salmon, genetically engineered salmon, will head to restaurants and away from home dining services where labeling as genetically modified is not required. Now, I'm just telling you what the research shows. So when you go to your favorite restaurant and you're requesting a fresh fish, or you're requesting fresh trout, fresh salmon, you don't know if it's genetically modified or not. And that is the reason for concerns. Now, there are companies that are out there who will tell you. There is one that I did find that will be able to tell you whether or not they are using genetically modified fish. And that company is Samuel's and Son Seafood. This is a Philadelphia-based seafood distributor. They are saying, according to Casey Smith from Associated Press, they are the only company to announce that they are selling their salmon as genetically modified. They are giving you truth in advertising, letting you know this. Now, the fact that the other companies do not let you know this is not fraud. I am not saying this. I'm just saying that this company, Samuel's and Son Seafood, a Philadelphia-based seafood distributor, is letting people know, look, when you get our salmon, you're getting salmon that's genetically modified. So at least you would know. So what are the benefits and what are the contraindications for consuming genetically modified foods over a particular period of time, particularly since we're talking about fish, genetically modified fish? Now, one thing you must remember, genetically modified foods have been appearing on your plates and they have been fed to animals that you have consumed, and they are in the vegetables that we eat. That has been going on for quite some time. This is not new. Therefore, the effects over time do not just start with, well, I just started eating, or I just made a food change or a food fare change. It does not mean that from this point on, you're looking to see whether there are side effects. You more than likely have been consuming genetically modified grains, plants, foods, and the animals that eat them for quite some time. So there is a buildup in your system already. All right, there's already a buildup in your system. So when we're talking about advantages and disadvantages, there's a lot to talk about. And I'm glossing over it, not getting deep into it, of course, but there's some things that you need to know. With the benefits, I start out with the benefits. The benefits, as I mentioned before, is a stable food supply. A stable food supply of fish. Stable supply not only for those developing countries, but for all of us around the world who choose to have fish as the animal protein they consume. A reduction in fish farming cost, a reduction in aquaculture, that is fish farming, reduction in the cost that is to maintain fish, to feed the fish, to have the fish have their pens cleaned or their farming areas cleaned out and fed. All the costs with the building and the developing, all of that would be a benefit. The reduction of commercial fishing, as I said, the reduction of commercial fishing is another benefit. The protection of habitats is a benefit when you're using genetically modified fish. So the research points: migration of endangered species problem. The endangered species of fish would no longer be in danger. They would be allowed to grow. They would be allowed to grow in their natural habitat, therefore populate. And like I said, the results of overfishing would not be a problem. Therefore, okay, so we're talking about the food shortage. There are those who believe that we will run out of food at some time, or there's a possibility that we will run out of food at some time, and they desire to address this controversy early, and they're using genetic modification to do this. Alrighty, like I said, also mentioned regarding employment. Whenever you have companies doing things, they always want to speak on employment opportunities. They always desire to speak about having individuals being able to support themselves and not being able to, rely so heavily to eradicate poverty, throughout the world. So you're always talking about jobs and employment, having sources of income, and you're talking about health. All right, this is another thing that's a very popular bell ringer when you're speaking of genetically modified fish, because the fish that are being genetically modified are full of fatty acids, omega-3s, and things that are the properties that are desirable for human consumption. And when you have genetically modified fish, you'll have more of them. Therefore, more people will receive the health benefits. And that is the argument there. And of course, when you have more supply, you have less demand, and the prices for fish can go down. I don't know if that's actually happening out there, but that is a benefit. Now, when it comes to contraindications, when it comes to genetically modified foods, and we're specifically talking about the fish today, but genetically modified foods in general, there is the contraindications would be antibiotic use. Now, the overuse of antibiotics is a huge topic in the United States and throughout the world. But when animals and when antibiotics are used in genetically modified organisms, we are, and when we consume, whether it's plant or whether it's animal, then what you're consuming from that plant or from that food source is also going into your body. So the antibiotics that were used are being deposited in your body as you consume the food product. So that is a growing concern, because when a human being does need an antibiotic, when you do need an antibiotic, you want to make sure that you are receiving all the benefits, and that you don't have a problem saying that you're having anaphylactic shock or any other resistance to antibiotics. When you need an antibiotic, you want to be able to have an antibiotic at your disposal. Growth hormone use is a great concern when you're talking about genetically modified fish. Of course, the fish in the salmon study that Aqua Bounty is stating, the fish there, whereas the fish would take maybe about 30 months or 30 months or so to develop in the wild, they're able to cut that time in half, maybe about 18 months. So they're using growth hormone. They're having the fish develop faster, develop stronger, develop in more ways so they can reproduce faster. Well, okay, that is what they do. But when you're consuming the growth hormone excess that they're using in the fish, when you're eating the fish, when you're eating the plant, whatever it is, whatever they have consumed, whatever they have been treated with, you're also consuming. So that is a problem when it comes to human consumption. Genetic manipulation is also a great concern. water pollution, water pollution. And there's concern there because if the aquaculture is not maintained, if the fish farmer is not maintaining the farm as it should be, then of course you're going to have water pollution. Well, water pollution because the water is going to be sloughed off into the water resource that is available, whether it be rivers and oceans, and means that other fish out there will be in contact with the waste products. And speaking of that, a lot of times that the fish feed is made from wild fish. So on one hand, you're saying you're going to, be careful of commercial fishing, but on the other hand, you're using these same fish to feed the genetically modified fish. Well, okay, again, and then there's problems with the safety, the intermixing of the genetically modified fish with the fish that are out in the wild. Why is that? Well, not because the scientists are afraid of mating, because in a lot of instances they have sterilized the genetically modified fish. What they are concerned about, what people are concerned about, is that there will be the fish, genetically modified fish, will be an invasive species. They will be an invasive species to that fish in the wild. Well, of course, scientists are saying that is a minimal risk, but accidents do happen. The Titanic did sink. The oil spills do happen. And with aquaculture, mistakes can be made, whether they are, mistakes can be made. And when they do happen, we just have to have something in place so that the natural habitats are not disturbed. There are so many more contraindications. Of course, the health risk, as I mentioned before, health risk, overfishing, and the fact that the aquaculture industry does not have any standards about how they are to run their operation. All of this are contraindications regarding not only the natural habitats, but what is good or what is not good for human consumption. So when it comes to this, if you really wanted to just narrow down the unexpected or the untoward effects, or possible untoward effects of what's going on with genetically engineered fish, you do have to be concerned about toxicity. You have to be concerned about allergic reactions. You do have to be concerned about antibiotic resistance. You do have to be concerned about immunosuppression. And whenever you're talking about immunosuppression, you have to consider that there are cancers involved, and you have to consider that there is a loss of nutrition. For wherever there's illness, there is a loss. There is a loss of health, and going down that road, as we all know, with all types of illnesses, there is a loss of nutrition. And like I said, everything that I have cited to you has come from very credible sources, Centered for Food Safety, centerforfoodsafety.org, Associated Press, many other sources. Even culinary sources, even the culinary sources have weighed in on genetically modified fish. Why? Because it is a growing concern. And here in the United States, as I mentioned, according to Associated Press, in May 27th of 2021, the genetically modified salmon has been cleared to be on your restaurant plate. And the only company that is admitting to, yes, we are definitely using this fish, is the Samuels and Son Seafood, which is a Philadelphia-based seafood distributor. So other restaurants, of the restaurants are not supposed to, but I'm saying they are not at liberty to tell you where their food sources, the salmon sources are coming from. They don't have to tell you that. Legally, they don't have to tell you that. But if you would like to do, more research about your favorite restaurant, then I'm sure as you do your own research, you can find whether they are using genetically modified seafood or not. Now, guys, like I said, everything that I have is not my opinion, is a research that is readily available out there. And I'm just sharing these resources with you to educate you about what's going on out there, not to scare you, but to keep you well informed. For those who enjoy eating salmon, the animal protein salmon, or a trout or striped bass, or any of the fish, even catfish, they're genetically modified. Tilapia, genetically modified. Grains, corn. There's a lot out there that's been genetically modified for years. And one way that you can keep safe is to stay knowledgeable. And also, I always recommend that you eat, and you cleanse your body, so to cleanse out as many as the toxins and the other harmful effects of what we do consume from not only food sources, but what's in the air, what's in the water, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I advocate that you cleanse your body at least with the changing of the seasons. All right, you do want to keep your body clean. You do want to keep your intestinal tract clean, and you do desire to live a healthier life. Like I said, this is just resources. These are resources that I have found and I'm sharing with you. And that's so, like we always say, so that you can look good, feel good, and have a more positive outlook on life. So you can govern your life and your health appropriately. Now, always, whenever you're making a change in your food fare, or whether you have more questions, you can always go to your healthcare team, your medical doctor, doctor of osteopathy, your nurse practitioner, your herbalist, all those who are concerned about your health. You can always discuss what is found here and ask them questions. They are on your team to help you feel better, to protect your immunity, to protect your health, to guide you into optimal health and wellness. All right. So please take this information. You can, like I said, if you desire to know the sources, I most definitely can give you the sources. Just send me an email at betterlivingathelp@gmail.com, or drop me a direct message at Beverly Sherelle Johnson. Well, that's the fishy facts about genetically modified fish, real quick. And we'll see you next time with another interesting topic here on Eat What. See you next time. Bye-bye.